Hello, everybody.
Hello, AOS fans! How are we
E-
today?
Every time when we first start, I don't know if it's because of the microphone, because of your headphones, because you've not spoken for a few minutes whilst we wait to go live. You go, and your mouth moves, but there's no sound for a second or so.
Oh, how strange.
But there we are. Such is life. But we're here
Welcome
anyway.
to
And the people
welcome to
watching us
everybody
live don't
listening.
care.
No, welcome to everybody listening live, and welcome to podcast viewers. I'll be updating this a couple of days later after we talk. Today is Tuesday, the 20-something of June. I never know. 28th today, is it?
Today's the 28th. Yes, it is. Tuesday, 28th of June.
So there we go. And tonight's specialist subject will be Moonstone, which I'm very looking forward to talking about. I don't know whether you can see it, but it's just behind me on my shoulder, there. I don't know whether you can see that.
Should see that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, brilliant. And so we're going to talk about that. But first, we're going to do our usual rundown of what we've been up to in the studio and what news there is from GW Land and other lands that we might have visited. And all that kind of jazz. So do to listen on. It'll be about half an hour or so before we get onto Moonstone. But looking forward to that. So Pete, what have we been doing? What have we been doing?
Well, last week we actually recorded a game of Moonstone. That's on the list to edit at some point in the nearest future. But before that, I need to get out some games of Battle Masters, because we played some Battle Masters with Val on the Sunday.
Yeah, so we had
Father's
Valentin.
Day, no less.
Father's Day, yes, he came to see us on Father's Day, which was very generous of him. Valentin out of Shadespire fame, and he'd been up to the the clash that was at Warhammer World, had a ball there, I believe, and then he came down, stopped on his way home, to specially bought a billion minifigures in a lovely case, and brought them across from Europe, so far away now, and we had pretty much played all afternoon and into the evening. Battle Masters. We played the whole campaign.
All 5 different games of it. Stopped for some dinner in the middle, but yeah.
Yeah, all tasty Nando's. So you've probably seen the pictures on our Facebook page and Instagram and what have you, and it's just really fun. But you can see more of that when the videos come out. How far away are you from actually having a video coming out?
First one should be coming out this week. Will definitely be this week, and then it'll probably be either weekly or maybe twice a week, possibly, depending on how life treats me when editing them. But yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, and then we may or may not revisit Battle Masters depending on how they go. We kind of had a few ideas of ways to improve it, ways to make it a bit more relevant and what have you. But whether anybody actually wants to see those, it remains to be seen. So watch this space, I'll say on that.
Yeah. Definitely tempted to try and come up with a 10mm version and getting a tabletop version with like a 2.5 to 3 foot square board or something like that. I reckon that would make it much more accessible and playable and jolly good fun to play.
I would definitely go along with that. I think and some rules tweaks as well, but yeah, if we could get it down onto a table, and we have found that there's various places to do little 3D prints of the tiny versions of the models, or you could play with War Master models. I think that would be really fun, and it would be quite interesting to do a kind of iterative process of improving the rules and seeing what it does. But I'm not sure anybody wants to watch that, and we have very limited time, so we'd have to see. We have to see what the clamouring for Battle Masters is when we've done it.
Yeah. I mean, for anybody who had played it originally, it was still a good fun game. It was nice and fast. It was nice and simple. There was not once, I think, did we sit and go, oh, what happens in this situation? Because there were so few things that you could do. It kept it nice and simple, so it was nice and easy.
There aren't very many rules interactions in there, are there?
And not very much in the way of tactical nuance either, because it's determined by a deck of cards as to which unit you play and activate, and therefore I think it's the kind of game you really could play with children, even maybe as young as like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Because it's literally possibly even younger.
It's literally just move and or attack, isn't it? There's nothing else. There's nothing else.
There's no complex objectives. There's no trying to decide what you need to do in certain situations. It's just nice and quick and easy.
Who needs tactics when you have whimsy? I assume that's Maliki, but I don't know whether it is or not.
Is that you, Maliki? It
Yeah,
kind of looks a bit
name.
Maliki-esque.
Yeah,
but yes,
name. And he did say he was going to be able to listen
to
to the Moonstone stuff this evening.
It is Maliki, yep. He says, here these tactics, we have whimsy.
Cool.
Very true indeed. It definitely took me back to my childhood, playing with models on the floor, jumpers for goalposts, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my models always got broken when we played with goalposts. And the
I was terrified that one of us was going to accidentally tread on one of the models or something like that. You know, we'd go to step and then...
I had it on the floor. You can't see it, particularly if you're listening on the podcast. You can't see it, but on the floor next to me here, because it is about 5x5 mat, and so it was all laid out on the floor, and we had to sometimes step across the battlefield to move the units at the back corners. I was waiting to just like flatten the cavalry, the Empire cavalry.
Because they all have those little masts, the little flag poles that sit on the back of the movement tray, and you've only got to catch one of those with your foot as you're stepping over it, and then you'll flip it on its side and then just tread on it, and the whole thing just nightmarish.
But we managed to avoid that. We managed to avoid that, which was good. So we played Battle Masters. That was really fun. We also played Moonstone, and we recorded that, and then we played a trial game, or a couple of trial games of Unmatched. We've got the Redemption Row set, which is right behind my head there, which again, podcast viewers you can't see. But so that's pitches Luke Cage against Moon Knight against somebody else. Ghost Rider. Yeah, and that was fun. We're going to record a couple of games of that this week. So you can look forward to seeing that. I'm sort of one of those games. It's quite good fun. I feel like it might be more fun with more players, but we'll see how because we didn't really know what we were doing tactically. Certainly the first game, and then I'll be vaguely interested to try some different sets out, but we'll see how we go on that one. Release wise, we have released, I think since our last podcast, we've released 2 Middle-earth strategy battle games, and I've just saying that I've completely realised the second one I didn't share in the Facebook group, the Middle-earth strategy battle games Facebook group, so I should do that tomorrow. That they've been really fun to make. They feel like we made those ages ago now, so we need to try and slot another one in at some point to not forget how to play.
Yeah, and plus I've got the wargs painted up now, and you've got the
I've got some rangers.
You've got the rangers, so it'd be nice to get those against each other and get some extra, some mixed up games going on there. Yeah,
I think I'm. In case you haven't watched them, I won't spoil. I won't spoil what happened in them. And then coming up, we've got we're doing 0200 hours this week. So we're going to record a game of Unmatched, maybe 2 games of Unmatched, and then we've got 0200 hours, which is the other side. Over here, which is a World War II game. It's like a sort of slightly.
I don't think anybody at home can see that one. I think it's just out of shot. You might have to.
The podcast viewers again definitely can't see it, and it's a World War II kind of hidden movement, allies trying to sneak into the German base type thing. So we're quite looking forward to playing that. We've been sent a copy of that by Grey for Now Games, and I've been assembling the models today, which has been something of a trial. Still not sure about this new thin glue, Pete. I'm not sure they were the best models for them because they have flat pieces to fit together.
I found they were really good for that, flat ones.
Oh, okay.
Just slap loads and loads on.
Well, I think that maybe I'm just being too second. I did get a technique which worked, but quite often it would also just slide off just at the wrong moment. I
found I had to stick the glue on both surfaces, leave it for a moment to start to dry out and start to get tacky, then put them together, and then just heap loads more into the crease of the 2 joins. Okay,
I was doing that because you recommended that. Putting it into the creases definitely worked. I wondered whether because it's quite warm, and I'm in the conservatory, which is even a little bit warmer, whether it was actually evaporating really fast off the plastic. So actually, sometimes I put the thing on because it's so thin, it just sort of and then dry too quick. But I did get there, and they weren't difficult to assemble in themselves. They just I was struggling with the glue, I think, but I got there. So I'm looking forward. I'm going to paint. So I'm trying to get some of those painted for some photos, but they'll be fairly quick paint jobs. Cool. And then coming up. We have John coming, so we'll have whatever we're doing. We won't on the 7th of July. John is visiting. He of John Grant Miniatures fame, and we were going to try and to play Oathmark, but he's not sure about playing Oathmark now. So I don't know what we're going to do with John. I don't know what we're going to do with him. No, I don't know what we're going to do.
Just put him in the garden.
So perhaps we'll take a little vote because he's kind of suggested some Underworld, or maybe some Bladeborn, or maybe some what's that game with the ball that you throw? Blitzball. Blitzball. So yeah, we'll see. So we'll that's to be announced.
As we have 4 more games of Battle Masters still to edit after that Sunday, and the game of Moonstone, which we're talking about tonight, to edit as well.
Yeah.
I feel like we might not record anything with John. He might just come in for a bit of fun or something like that. That may make sense. In that case, we might as well play Oathmark. It doesn't matter if we get it wrong. But that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So have you done any painting in between all this?
No, not really.
Malarkey?
I think since we last spoke, I maybe put some coats. I've slap chopped some goblins for Middle-earth strategy battle game. I've got to do the metals now, and I think after I've done the metals, they're done. So all I've done is like the skins and the browns, which is like 90% of the goblin models, and then the bases on them. And I've still got my 2 Horus Heresy Death Guard models that I haven't done any more on, apart from finish painting the armour slightly white again, which I know our podcast listeners can't hear. I don't know if anybody can see any of that.
They can hear, they can't see.
Sorry, yes, I can't see that. Yeah, that's what I meant. But I haven't done any more. You've probably been much more active than me.
I haven't done loads because I've been doing the assembly, but I painted my Rangers for Middle Earth. And then I had a period actually where I think it was the weekend, it was really hot, I just didn't really feel like painting. I'm working on Black Panther and Killmonger, but I haven't got very far in those at all. I did paint a fabulous Marine, which was our community shout out last week, or last podcast time. I painted for that hashtag Fabulous Marine, a Pride Marine if you like, which was really hard, and there's some amazing ones on Instagram, and mine isn't one of them. Mine's kind of like I don't know what mine is, but it's got the right colours. That's about it. It was really. I wouldn't want to do a whole unit of them because it was really difficult.
No, they did look rather involved.
Yeah. So that's what I've been painting. I've got some Minas Tirith guys on the paint table as well, but this week's about World War II soldiers. So I've never painted anything historically accurate before, so that will be all done badly, incorrectly. But we'll see how. Hopefully they just have to look vaguely okay on camera.
When I helped my eldest with his Tamiya ones, all we did was we just sort of did in camo-y colours, so different browns and greens, and that was kind of like what we did with them. And
I have got the Vallejo paint German grey, which seems like it might be a good place to start.
Sounds like a good one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do the Germans sort of greyish, and the English or the British green. That's not all of them. I won't do their faces green, I'm going to.
Well,
they've got some of their well, true, they're paratroopers, so I'll probably give them little red berets, some of them as well.
That'd be cool.
Make them easy to shoot.
Yeah. We need to sneak up on them. What should we do with our bright red hats? Keep them on, of course.
It wouldn't be cricket otherwise.
Exactly. What are you suggesting?
Talking of bases, did you notice in our painting channel on the Discord, Tom and John's bases of the miniatures they painted recently? So Tom has painted some Moonstone minis, and John had just been painting, I think, some what are they called? Nids.
Steelers and stuff, nids, yeah.
Yeah. And my bases are functional, and I think they look okay, but I was blown away by how good both of them were. So I'm going to try and up my base game in between now and the next year.
The buttery biscuit base.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends what you want them for. I mean, I liked the way John had done his. They were quite, some of them were on the metal bases, so he kept them quite basic and stuff like that. haha. I think it's just a case of adding different textures on. Like they've got the different tufts of static grass and some stones and things like that around. I think it just helps break it up a bit sometimes. But at the same time, you don't want. It's very hard because you don't want to go overboard on it. You don't want to make your base better than the model.
That is very true. Well, in neither case, because they're both very good painters.
This is true.
Much danger. Was there much danger of that? In my case, it could be tricky. Although that said, I'm so cack-handed. There's little chance of my base being better than the painting. I tend to just use sand and a bit of paint and whatever colour I want it to be, and maybe a few bigger stones. And I think it looks fine. But when I try and use, I've got a few tufts that I bought. The tufts are massive, and then I try and trim them down. And to me, they look like somebody's stuck a tuft of grass on the base. You know what I mean? They don't quite look natural.
But are they those like pre-made tufts?
Yes.
Because I think they look more like it. Whereas I think Tom and John both do the grass individually. They're not tufts of grass. They're just
exactly. No, they make their own. That's what I mean. I'd always thought the static, tufts of grass was the way to go. But now, of course, there's more finesse involved for making it look good. I do cut them up, actually. I do cut the tufts up, and so it's not quite a case of just plonking them on. Partly because I think I probably, knowing me, didn't buy specific model ones. I probably bought train ones or something, which were probably too big, because they would have been cheaper on eBay. But I ended up trimming them down. But anyway, so I was just blown away. I never really thought about bases very much, really. So I'm gonna maybe try and do some more effort on the bases. So that's kind of us, I think. Don't think we've done anything else very exciting, have we? Have we, darling?
I don't think so. Nothing of note. Apart from obviously the stuff we already mentioned, which has been good. That the Sunday's gaming was exceptionally good fun. So.
Well, it was good fun, and actually this Sunday, which isn't really anything to do with us, I did go with my kids for my son's birthday. We did do laser tag in a Star Wars environment. That was pretty great.
I like laser tag because you're less likely to get hurt, unlike paintball.
If given the option of doing, I suppose it's slightly more. There's more adrenaline if you're doing paintball because it does hurt, so you're a bit more worried about being shot. But given the choice of doing the two, I can't imagine I would ever pick paintball. Ever.
I like both, but paintball definitely requires more investment because it costs a lot more as well because you have to keep buying the paintballs.
Exactly.
Which
I wouldn't mind so much if I had the paintball rifle and the other people had laser tag. That would be okay, but not the other way around. Though it was quite funny because there was one game where, because my middle son is very fast, and there's one game where they had to run and capture an Imperial objective, the plans, and he sprinted across the thing, and they couldn't shoot him. But there's no way he'd have done it in paintball because he'd been absolutely plastered with paintballs in agony.
It's funny because in laser tag you do just run with zero regard, but the minute it's something real whizzing past you, you just huddle down behind something.
Absolutely.
Or you go into the first game thinking, well, it doesn't hurt that much, and then you take a shot to the rib and you're like,
I remember I've only been once, but I remember getting shot and it really hurt, but it didn't explode. So I think that's why it hurt. Yeah, as well. And I kind of like put my hands up, went, "Oh, I've been shot," and then I looked, and I was paint free. Like, oh, I haven't been shot.
And then you get
sorry, I haven't been shot.
My trick for paintballing is layers. Wear multiple layers, as many as you can. Makes you softer, less chance of the paintball exploding.
Bit hot though.
Can be. Go in the autumn. Yeah. Go in the autumn. Hope for slight drizzle. The perfect day.
Hope for slight drizzle. There's an ambition for us both.
Which it's a pretty low ambition in the UK, isn't it? Right,
moving on, because with the schedule and everything. There's not very much GW news this week, this fortnight. They've got a bit quiet. I think there's probably more news if you actually play their games, because
probably.
They seem to have done a lot. When I was looking through the Warhammer community site, there was lots of, we've updated this data slate, we've updated this, we've balanced this, and I think there's been a lot of rules updates, which obviously we can't comment on or know anything about, or to be honest care that much about. But I gather they've gone over fairly well. I imagine probably 50% of the people were happy, and 50% of the people were outraged. But who knows? But one thing I did notice, as you probably, if you're anywhere moving GW circles, you probably can't fail to have noticed that they have now put their new paints up for pre-order. Yeah, I need to actually both need some new Nuln Oil and some new Agrax, so it'd be interesting to see how they go. I'm slightly worried about when they change. Like, it's not something that's fundamental to my painting life. Although I have found this batch, both of them have got a bit shiny. My Nuln Oil, and they're not the gloss. Before you say it, both of them have got a bit shiny. So I'm wondering whether that the new formula might fix that.
I found that with one that I had ages ago, where I did some models, but this was a couple of years ago now, and I had some Agrax that I put on the models, and afterwards they came up quite shiny. I was like, this isn't the gloss version or anything like that, so I don't know what it was. I mean, some people suggest that if you don't shake it enough, it can end up being a bit shiny, so I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds like that could have been me, because I'm not always the best at shaking it.
Sometimes I really get tempted to get one of those, like the nail varnish shaker things. I think Tom or somebody got one.
Yeah.
But they're like £90. I just think
it's
not worth it for 90 quid.
I've been
for
tempted
like
too.
20 to 30, I'd be tempted.
Yeah, or even 40. I'd go as far as 40, but 70. I think I've seen 75. But yeah, because the scale colour paints, they separate out quite badly, or some of the colours do, and they are really. I can move my hand around, but they really. I have to for ages. Like,
Do you have any of the little mixer things in them?
I don't, because I'm paranoid about something going wrong. But no, I haven't.
Well, there's Army Paint to do some as well, and they're quite good. Or you can just get glass. I bought glass beads the last time I wanted some, because I figured glass isn't gonna rust or react or anything like that. So. No,
I think it's just that I can't be bothered, and B, I have certain paints that I use quite a lot, and therefore they're normally okay. And then the other ones, I just have to put up with it every now and again. I do just have to shake it like a Polaroid picture for a good 10 minutes.
I had one the other day that I thought, hey, I've got one here actually, I don't know if you can quite see it. It's separated into two separate colours, and I had a different one that was like that.
Ulthur and Grey.
No, this one is Pallid Witch Flesh.
Okay. Oh, they're quite. It's always the pale ones with the Cecile.
But I had one that was like that the other day. Sorry.
It's always the pale ones.
Yeah. Yeah. But I had one the other day, and I thought, oh, that's separated a bit. I better give that a good old shake before I try and use it. It wasn't Pallid Witch Flesh. There's another one that's sort of flesh tones, which you can use as a good white base coat. But I went to shake it, and after a minute of shaking it, I looked at it, it still looked like it was two separate colours, and it's because the bottom layer had separated out and then sort of plasticised.
And that's why I hate them. That's why I hate them. They're stupid lids. See, it's not just
me. To be fair, it was such an old paint. It possibly would have done that anyway in a dropper bottle.
You're saying that. I've had none of them in a dropper bottle do that. None of them.
Neither have I, but then I haven't had dropper bottles that long. I did have a few that I put into dropper bottles, and then I put a metal ball bearing in there, and the ball bearing rusted. So that screwed the paint up anyway. So
I'm quite looking forward to seeing some of these new colours, some of the brighter yellows. I think I've said that last time, but I'm quite looking forward to seeing that. And the purples look better, because the purple is a bit rubbish, the current one. So I don't know that I'm not going to go all in on the new paints, but I'll probably end up getting a couple as and when I need them.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple in there I'd like to try out, and I need to replace a couple of my paints that have gone there, so I might get a few at the same time, and maybe sploosh 20-30 quid on some new paints and give them a try.
Because the good thing about buying paints is it's not too expensive.
Yeah.
I could fly
it can be as expensive as you want it to be. You can just spend
if you just want to buy one or two. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you just want to buy one or two. Although even buying one or two has got more expensive than it should.
And then going home and realising you already have those one or two that you just bought.
Yeah, I've got 2 pots of Black Templar for some reason. Yes.
Other
AOS-y things. Sorry, what did you say?
I was just saying, I do like a bit of Black Templar. It's a nice colour, that one.
Yeah, I've just used that for my. I'm also painting. Still painting my other Mark 6 Marines, and I'm just doing the Death Dark Angels one, and I did a bit of slap chopping, heavily dry brushed it and then painted it over Black Templar, and it looks pretty good. Now I'm like, I don't know what to do with it now, because the only problem with doing it this way, I haven't got any decals or anything. I'm not going to do all that stuff. And I've got, they're basically black. I'm not painting any of the insignias on by hand, so he's kind of done. I just need to put a few silver blobs on, and he's finished.
Pick out some metal bits, I guess, maybe.
Yeah,
the gun
that's
or
about
stuff.
it.
Not much left
That's
to do.
about it. So it's quite quick. Sorry, yes. So GW, other news. The AOS Battle Box they announced, which well, there's a new Lumineth and a new Siege Wizard. I quite like the new Siege Wizard model. That's quite cool.
Oh, the Curseling.
Yeah, I was quite drawn.
But his previous model, the previous incarnation of that, looked really nice as well. But I think they updated it because the previous one was Finecast, so kind of made sense to redo it. So.
Yeah, I didn't realise there was a previous version. I'm not very up on that. And I was looking at the models. I do like the Lumineth cavalry models. They look like proper. They look like updated old school cavalry, if that makes sense. They kind of looked. They harkened back to the old world for me, which I quite like.
I definitely don't like any of the Lumineth stuff. I just think they all look crap.
I wouldn't want to paint them that pale colour that they
No.
all are. I mean, John did those brilliantly, but I couldn't face that. And then the last bit of GW news, which isn't really GW news, but it sort of is. It's Cubicle 7 today announced they've got a new book coming out called The Era of Beasts, which is a supplement for Soulbound RPG. But in it, you'll actually be able to play an AOS dragon of some description, which is pretty insane.
Which is just silly.
Yeah, I just stuck that a bit of news in because I just thought, wow, that's bonkers.
Yeah.
More generally on the gaming side, I don't know if you've been following what's been going on with MCP. They've announced Crimson Dynamo and Darkstar and Red Guardian and Ursa Major, which are new sets, and they're going to be the Winter Guard, I think they're called. I think they're from that strand of comics. So they're basically Russians. And Red Guardian
Commie edition.
Black Widow for bit film. Yeah, but I really like that. It's quite nice to have a different affiliation. And it's quite nice, I guess you could sort of do a Cold War, because they had just announced like a new Captain America and new Nick Fury Senior or whatever he's called.
Yeah.
And that kind of older stuff. You could kind of do a earlier era Marvel, which I quite like. Ties in quite nicely with the 200 hours game, potentially. The scales are slightly off, but I quite like that you can do that. And I do like the models. I like the Crimson Dynamo model and the Red Guardian model, and the bear is pretty good for Ursa Major.
Who doesn't like a giant bear? The bear is brilliant.
Exactly, yeah. So
to be honest, they're all really nice.
Their model, yeah, and I kind of umming and ahhing where am I going to go next with MCP? And we haven't played it for a while because we keep having other things to do. I almost think, well, should I just stop? But kind of every time something new comes out, I'm always like, oh, but maybe I should get that, because I was thinking, I'm going to get the Asgardians, because they've now got that what do you call it, pack, kind of bumper pack of it, and I like all the models in that. But I think I'm going to wait now for these to come out, because I've got plenty to be getting on with, so that's a good excuse.
Yeah.
AMG also announced a new organised play pack, which has caused a bit of a stir in the community. I haven't really followed it because I don't play competitively, but they've basically announced some restrictions and some rotation. I think it's not a massive rotation, but they have cards any cards that have just been reprinted in the new card pack are obviously fine, but there's some older cards which I think are dropping out of play. They've got two timelines. I think one might be called the extended timeline. I can't remember what the other one's called. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. Some people are saying it's going to turn it into Warhammer Underworld, which is interesting. Where basically, the old stuff goes out of rotation, so you've got to keep buying stuff to stay competitive. I don't think it's that bad, because you can still play all of the heroes. They haven't rotated out any heroes, and they've reprinted the cards. So I can't really. And I think you don't even have to have the new reprints of the cards if you just have to abide by the text kind of thing, as long as it's been reprinted. So I don't see that as a massive issue. But it's quite interesting that they're upping their organised play ante, or competitive play really, rather than organised play, because their organised play stuff is more narrative, which I quite like. Not that I'll ever get to play it. Not that I'll ever get to play it. Somebody on the Facebook group for the MCP had the Corvus Games terrain subway station, which I shared on our Patreon Discord.
Which looks mental.
It just, I want that so badly. If I didn't have 58 gajillion other projects on the go, I would totally find somebody to print that for me. and paint it up so we could play. We could
I was
do
gonna
Lego
say.
sometimes. So Lego sometimes, and then other times we could play at a subway station. Because
You would need to get someone to spray that. That would need to be airbrushed, wouldn't it? Because it would just be a pain in the ass for anything else.
Yeah. So if maybe when the kids have left home, if they're still doing it then maybe I'll get it then. And my wife doesn't want to talk to me anymore because she sees me every day and there's nobody else to talk to. So then I'll get the subway station out. But they are also talking about Lego. I briefly mentioned there. Lego have announced a Sanctum Sanctorum, which I really want for our
Which is also mental.
table.
Huge,
table,
like
yes.
250 quid or something like that.
It's quite expensive. It's 215. It's quite expensive, but it's fabulous. It's fabulous.
It
So
is
don't
fantastic.
look too hard at the company accounts, Pete. That's all I'm going to say. Other news: a game called Magic Mountain won the Kinderspiele at the Spiele des Jahres. They haven't announced the main winner yet. I don't quite know how that works, but it's a very young players game. I can't comment on it. I haven't played it. It looks kind of fun. It's kind of witches chasing. I can't remember what it is they're chasing something down the mountain, and will o' the wisps kind of get in the way. In fact, it's almost like it has a movement mechanic almost like Battlemaster, so it's a bit random.
Cool.
Which models you can actually move until you have to kind of try and plan ahead, but you don't actually know what's going to happen. And then this is completely random. There's going to be a Parks and Recreation, that's the TV series. There's going to be a semi-cooperative card game based on building town projects and things, and you can bring in characters to help you and stuff. That looks mental.
I like the idea of that. I do like Parks and Rec. Trouble is, no one else in my house has watched it, so I'm the only person who likes it.
Okay, well maybe it's going to be published by Funko. Maybe it won't be very expensive. Maybe we'll play it on the channel. We can do our best Leslie Knope impressions. or more likely Andy Dwyer.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think our remit is more Andy Dwyer.
Yeah. Or Ron Swanson. Could you channel your inner Ron Swanson?
I'd be tempted just to shave off all the beard for that, just get a Ron.
Brilliant. That was almost worth it in itself just to see that actually.
There's a picture one year when I was doing Movember. I grew a great big sort of biker moustache, and just before I got rid of it all at the end of Movember, I cut off just down the side, so I just had a great big, like a Ned Flanders moustache, Ron moustache, and it looked terrifying.
Yeah, I did that when I did November as well, and it just looked awful. Well, really awful when it was about halfway through, and I had this kind of tiny bit under
hint of.
But what's really weird, and this is not going to work on the podcast, I don't grow any hair here.
All right.
So I was trying to grow a biker moustache. I'm pointing to just below my lips. There's little two spaces either side of my bottom
Either side of your lip, yeah.
So I was trying to grow a biker moustache, but it kind of went moustache, gap, little bits. so it just didn't work at all. Anyway, is anybody here? Is anybody talking to us? War Machine's in. Hello, War Machine.
People are saying hello and stuff. Nothing too much to go on the channel. I did ask if people out there listening what they are hobbying and doing at the minute to let us know. So do shout as you're listening along if you've got anything you want to add, any comments or anything like that.
Brilliant. Okay, and then the final bit of gaming news is that Exploding Kittens are making zombie kittens, which I don't know anything about because I didn't have time to read it, but I just saw that announcement and thought, Pete would like to know that there's going to be an Exploding Kittens spin-off called Zombie Kittens, so that's why that's in there.
I want that one. I'm definitely going to have to look into that. We like playing Exploding Kittens, so I'm definitely going to have to look into that.
I didn't want to like Exploding Kittens because everybody liked it. Everybody said how good it was, and I think it can't be very good because
everyone likes
game. It. Yeah, exactly. I'm a serious gamer, and I want to gatekeep other, but no. So therefore, it isn't going to be a good game. But actually, it is just so accessible and so much. I'm not sure it is a good game, but it's just so accessible that it's a good game.
It's fast, isn't it? It doesn't matter because it's quick and it gives you enough ability to be able to stuff other people up with the note cards and things like that. So you can
and it is you do find yourself laughing and having a joke and just being there's something about a game where you survive by the skin of your teeth, like when you've got like 3 cards left and you know one of them's the one that's going to take you out of the game, and you don't draw it. There's something about that mechanic which is just really fun, and it doesn't have a negative side to it, if you know what I mean. It's not like other people are devastated by your fortune. They share in the good fortune with you, which I think is a really neat thing to be able to do with a game, I think.
And the artwork's brilliant as well. It's always worth a chuckle at.
Yes, yeah. Although I'm one of those people who I focus on the words. I rarely look at the pictures. Somebody will go, "Oh, do you know that picture's whatever it is?" Oh, yes, so it is.
Oh, yes.
I'm not sure. Yeah. So at this point in time, Pete, do you know what I want to do right now?
What do you want to do right now?
Down. I'd like to pause for a Marlow moment.
Bum 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 bum. Marlow moment time.
Marlow moments. This segment is sponsored, sort of, by Andrew Marlow, one of our beloved patrons, and he loves to ask questions. And this week, Pete, he has asked us, do you think board/card games will ever be replaced? And then in brackets, he's put virtual reality. So I suppose he means, are we all going to end up plugged in and never play tactile gaming experiences again?
I mean, I have a VR. I've got the Oculus Quest thing, the Quest 2 thing, and I can't imagine anything worse than putting that on to play a board game. There's an advert for a game for the Oculus Quest where you can all. The one thing I do like the idea about this is it's like a D&D adventure type game that you can all play via Oculus Quest. That could be quite fun if you can't all meet up. If you've got friends abroad or in different parts of the country or anything like that, being able to do that.
Can you imagine?
And then
can you imagine what chaos it would be if you were all in the same room?
waving your arms around without realising and stuff. But I mean, I can't imagine ever donning a VR headset to play it, especially a card game.
Play chess,
but almost definitely not a board game.
Yeah, I mean, I think the evidence is that it's not, and I don't know whether it's a pushback against the digital, always on a screen. Everything is consumed via a screen. Board games are booming, and it's not just because of lockdown. They were booming before lockdown. My kids like to play board games. I don't think they'll ever be replaced because there's a tactile experience in them as well, and that social aspect which you just, even through Zoom chats and video chats, which are amazing compared with what if you'd shown me that 20 years ago, I'd have been like, that's incredible, and it is incredible, but it just isn't the same. Even like doing these podcasts and live chats, they're more fun if we're in the room together. They just are. So I don't think it'll ever be replaced. I think they can be enhanced, as we discussed in our last podcast. Apps can definitely improve the experience, but I don't think that board games and card games will ever be replaced, because there are a few things better in some ways than just playing a hand of cards late at night with friends. That's like an experience that you can't beat. Well, it's not my favourite late night experience, I have to say, but
sleeping, isn't it? It's definitely sleeping.
It's definitely more likely to happen. I know sleeping. I sleep quite a lot.
I mean, I think in some ways board games and card games have already lost the ground that they were going to lose to the digital revolution when it first happened 20, 30 years ago, when Nintendo and Sega and all that first started bringing digital entertainment into our homes in the forms of consoles and then PCs, and I think they've already done what damage they can do, and I think we're now in the equilibrium state now that yes, some people may play a lot more digital games than they do card games or board games because they can't get to places where they can play card games or board games, but I think given the choice, a lot of people would pick card or board games over a digital game if they could.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're coming at it from a middle-aged person perspective, so I don't know how the youngsters feel, but I think unless there's like another major kick on in technology, I feel like it's kind of at its limit now, in the sense it can only it looks amazing, but the actual experience itself hasn't really changed that much, I don't think, in 20 years. The actual.
I mean, when I used to play World of Warcraft, and I wasted a lot of life on World of Warcraft back in the day with a lot of people, friends from work, back when I worked at Friends Provident, in fact, and there would be 5 of us in a group running through a dungeon together, because you needed to have a group of people to do some of the bits of the games. They were great fun, but they were almost like playing a board game together, because you were all almost in the same place, communicating in real time, doing things, but you're all kind of playing your part. So it was almost you were playing almost your solo adventure, because everybody had specific roles. I'm going to go over here and tank these bad guys and draw their attention. You're going to make sure I don't die and heal people and not get killed yourself, and that person's going to go and do all the damage and whatnot. So everybody was still sort of playing their own solo game, but it was like a group activity, and that was good fun. But I think that gained ground because I think that gained ground because people just couldn't. We wouldn't have been able to all get together in the same place to do something like that. No,
but I'm not sure, because I don't play a lot of computer games. But I don't really feel like that experience has changed very much now for people. The graphics are better, but the experience is much the same. And I think where board games, and in particular RPGs, will always have it, is you're always constrained by what the coding is. And I know the kind of sandbox world have got better and better, but in a role-playing environment, you can do literally anything as long as you communicate it to your GM and your other players, and so you can literally take the game anywhere. But you'll never be able to do that on a computer unless there's a huge leap in technology. That's what I think. We could actually talk longer than that, I think, but we probably ought to move on, because we're already 4 minutes overdue for our main focus topic, whatever it says on my agenda
of this evening.
And that is Moonstone. Moonstone. It's very big on the Age of Sigmar Discord.
It is. I don't know how big it is as a game.
As much as anything is big. I think it has a strong, loyal following, but it is tiny.
Yeah.
It's like me.
Much like our channel, yeah.
Yeah. Like you, Pete. Tiny but loyal.
Sort of. I'll stab you in the back as soon as looking for a fiver. But yes. Yes. I do like it. I don't think it's ever going to be a Games Workshop killer. It's never going to rival 40k and AOS, because it's just not got that seriousness about it, I don't think, and that's partly why I really love it, because it's silly.
Yeah, I agree. So I've just clicked the wrong thing and I've lost myself. Right, okay. Yes. I totally agree with that, and it's got a much lighter rule set, which I really like about it. Perhaps we ought to give a little overview of the game, so people can, if you've never played. It's a skirmish game with about 6 models, and there's no points values or anything. Everything is basically meant to be balanced, so you pick your models.
There are sort of 3 factions, but that's about it.
Yeah, you can only pick from 2 of 3 factions, but you can have any 6 models from those factions that exist, and you get in the starter box you get 4 from 2 factions, so you have 4 on 4 games, but you could mix and match from the factions if you wanted to, and then you just play on a 3x3 board. You have a little bit of terrain. It's kind of medieval worldy theme, but you could play with any. If you only had 40k terrain, you could play it with 40k terrain. It might look a bit strange, but it would work as a game. And then you're fighting over these moonstones, basically, which this game has a few fantastic mechanics, and one of them is the moonstones, which is basically D4s. I think there are 7 in a full game of 6 fighters aside. There are 7, and you drop them right into the centre of the table, and they kind of burst over the board. And wherever they land, that is the moonstones. That's where they're set. And you can mulligan them if one of the players doesn't like it. But then there's an added element, which is the number on them is how deep they are. So the 1s are on the surface and the 4s are deep, and they have to be. And I keep calling it mined, but it's not mined. What is the word?
Harvested.
Harvested. And then so you harvest the moonstones, and then you can take the moonstones and carry them around with you. And whoever's got, it's a 4-turn game. Whoever's got the most moonstones at the end of the game is the winner, and it's as simple as that.
I love the fact that placing the moonstones, the objectives of the game, is just a case of hold them above the board and drop it in the middle, and wherever they go, they go. It immediately takes away that. There's no tactical nuance to that. There's no wondering about how, you'd be able to hold an objective because it's in cover, so this one's better to go for than that one or whatever. It's just, they just get dropped and then you just deal with it. Like you say, you can mulligan them, but generally it's just a case of, there you go, work with what you got.
Yeah. I mean, I've come to the conclusion over the years that I like games where my decisions that I make don't come back to haunt me. And so the fact that you don't have to worry about where you've placed the objectives, for example, is perfect, because I don't have to then worry, discover later that, oh God, I shouldn't have put this one here because you've got a sniper covering it or whatever. So and again, it just adds to that sense of whimsy, as Maliki used the word earlier.
And Maliki has commented, Maliki has commented, the Moonstone has a bit of a tournament scene to it too, which is great that people are playing it competitively and stuff like that. It's silly fun, but he says he can see how people can go very tactical with it for the fighter synergies, but you can also just ignore that happily and play games without really having to worry about it being a crap game, because all the individual fighters are fairly well balanced. So it's not like in, say, 40k or AOS, where if you just pick some rubbish units, you might just not have a fun game at all. No,
I mean, it's a bit MCP like in that respect, isn't it? In the sense that you can play Marvel Crisis Protocol with tactics and synergies and what have you, but actually you can also just pick the fighters you like. Obviously there is some points values in that, but you can just pick the fighters you like and rock up and play them and enjoy that. In fact, I was thinking idly to myself whether the game would convert to a Marvel Moonstone, whether you could just make some cards up for the fighters. You probably could, but I'm sure we won't. But you probably could, and I think it'd be quite good fun. And then so you're on a 3x3 board. You all start fairly close together because you can start within 10 inches of the table edge. It doesn't take long to get into combat. You can move. Everybody can move freely 4 inches. There might be some fighters that have different things, but everybody can move freely 4 inches, and then you have to start using your energy to do things if you want. You can't make any other 4-inch moves. You can only move 1 inch, pretty much, which uses energy. Most fighters have between 3 or 4 energy, and you can use energy to make attacks. You can use energy to move extra, as I just said, and you can use money to harvest moonstones. Well, I used the right word, Pete. And you can also use money. You can use I said attacks. You can also use them. Energy to use your arcane abilities, and most things cost 1 energy, some things cost 2, and that in a nutshell is it.
Yeah, there's not too much depth to it. I've not even read like the fluff around the moonstones and the lore of the thing, because
I think they're effectively currency. The wizard wants them too, so you can get them to get money from that. That's really why you harvest them. So it's not even like a particularly, what's the word? It's a whimsical device for fighting as well. It is literally just getting these for the wizard to make magic. It's not like if you die, if you lose, then civilization as you know it is destroyed.
Exactly. It's just people having to punch up over stuff that fell out of the sky that gives them a couple of quid in their pocket type stuff because somebody else wants to buy it off them, and you don't even need to know that much. You can just get some models and stick them on a board and have a good play around with them, and it's just good fun. And the models look great.
The models are kind of very Python-esque, Terry Gilliam type creations, aren't they? They
remind me of Labyrinth. Definitely get flashbacks of the Labyrinth film.
That kind of thing, and they've got a lovely kind of dark Alice in Wonderland feel to them too. Maliki says they're available to play on TTS, which I've never tried. Talking of digital implementations of games, check it out. So the rules, we kind of covered the basics. There's 2 other really great mechanics in there, which I really like and Pete really likes. They hurt my head a little bit sometimes. but as a concept, I think they're brilliant. So the combat, well, it might be better to explain the arcane first, actually. So each fighter has one or more arcane skills, and that is normally given by a colour and a number you need to be successful. And then there are a deck of cards. You get a little deck of cards, arcane cards, of which there are 9 of each. Is that right? No, 6 of each. 6 of each.
6 of each.
6 of each. And they're numbered
Three.
like a pyramid. So
Yeah.
there's 1 that's worth 3, 2 that are worth 2, and 3 that are worth 1. And you shuffle them all together, so you've got all the colours. So there's 3 colours: red, blue, and green. You shuffle them all together. These 18 cards, and you also throw in some catastrophe cards. There's 3 catastrophe cards get thrown in as well. So there's 21 cards altogether. And then each fighter has an arcane ability, an arcane stat rather, and you get dealt that many arcane cards. And so you're looking at, so you might get your hand of 4 cards, and you'll have a selection. So you might have, more likely you'll have cards that are worth 1, but you might have the odd card that's worth 2, but they'll be in different colours. And your stat will be, well, I only need 1, but it needs to be green. And you're looking at your hand and you haven't got any green. Your opponent, on the other hand, he just gets dealt whatever's going on. He or she just gets dealt 6 cards, and they look at theirs, and so the only information they have is what's in their hand. And obviously, they know the distribution. So let's say you're sitting there thinking you need to get this arcane stat to work, this arcane ability to work. You only need 1 green, but you haven't got any. But you pretend that you have. You're allowed to bluff at this point. You basically play it face down on the table, and you say, I'm playing 1 green. And your opponent has to decide whether you're telling the truth or not. And if they're holding 2 green ones in their hand, or definitely if they're holding 3 green ones in their hand, they think, well, you're lying. And so they check whether you're lying, and obviously I said in this example you didn't have any, so you were lying. You have to turn it over, and your opponent can then swap it for one of the cards of their 6 cards, which they'll swap it to a failure, so it doesn't work. Well, it's always going to be a failure anyway, but they can swap it to a catastrophe, and then something bad happens to you. Each arcane has a catastrophe associated with it, which is normally taking damage. If on the other chance, if by chance you happen to have a green one and you said a green one and your opponent called you on it, then you could get the possibility of using other cards, or using the cards already in your hand to use the arcane ability again. That actually doesn't happen that often because you need to have multiples of the same colour in your hand, and so it doesn't happen that often, but it is feasibly possible you might get to use your arcane ability twice. If your opponent doesn't challenge you, supposing they weren't holding any green cards in their hand either, and it just thought, therefore, chances are you're telling the truth, then they let it go. You don't ever have to tell them whether you were telling the truth or not, so they never know whether you were lying. So basically, you have pulled the wool over their eyes, and you get to use it, and so nobody knows. You just say, well, I played 1 green on there, so I can use that ability now. And I really like that. It adds a real fun element to the game. It can be a bit swingy. There was a couple of times in our practice games where I was dealt. I needed green, and I did X, which was the number of the card that I had, plus 2 damage. So I could do, if I got a 3, I could get 5 damage. There's only 1 green 3 in the deck, but I think I got it twice in the same game, which is quite swingy. But it's always that. Is it worth having a gamble at lying? Quite possibly not. Sometimes, because your opponent, often it seems it's worth your opponent just calling you on it.
But I think sometimes, depending on some of the abilities, because obviously you've got healing abilities. If you've got someone nearly dead and you need a green, and you say, I've got green 3, and you've got several people that are injured, your opponent's then got to think, oh, that's so outrageous. Have they actually got the green 3 that they need? And if they're lying, if they're not lying, then they might then be able to heal somebody else again after, and that could really swing things. So you have to be really careful when you're doing it. And I do like that whole aspect about trying to balance the possibilities of whether it could go wrong for you or not.
Yes, yeah, and it's just good fun. It's just good when you do cheat somebody. So far we've always revealed that we've been lying to the other person. Yeah, it's just a really nice mechanic. The combat mechanic works in a similar way, which I don't know if you want to explain, Peter. As I talked at length about the arcade mechanic. Yep.
So the combat system is you have 6 different combat moves, 3 attack moves and 3 defense moves, and there are 3 of each of those. So in total you have 18 cards, and you shuffle that 18 cards up, and then you deal a certain number to the attacker and the defender. Attackers get +2 to their melee stat, so generally attackers get slight advantage there and get more cards. And then you each have to pick in private which combat maneuver you want to do, whether it's a defensive or an offensive one. And then you both show them at the same time, and it's kind of a bit scissors paper rock in a way, in that certain attacks will do better against certain other attacks or certain other defences, and certain defences will do better against certain other attacks, and so on. So to add another layer to that as well, all of the fighters, I believe, have special attacks that key off of one of the 3 basic ones, or one of the 3 defence moves. So you'll play your attack move, but you can actually substitute that for your special attack instead, which might do more damage, or it might heal you, or it might affect your opponent in some way. And when you show the cards, if you have multiples of the card that you're playing, you then can play those extra to get like what we like call a critical hit, where you basically you do more damage. And it's the thing I love. I think the thing we love about that, or the thing I love about it, and possibly the thing Robin hates about it, is the fact that you can start thinking, well, they want to use move A because that's their special move. So if they've got any of those cards, they might use those. So I might play the defensive move B, which is really good against attack move A, but they might know that I'm thinking that they're going to use attack move A, so they might use attack move C, and then my defense move B means nothing in that situation. And you can end up trying to second guess what your opponent might be doing. I find when I play, I just go, do I have multiples of any one of the attack cards? If so, I'm probably just going to go with that. Otherwise, have I got the attack move that benefits that my fighter has the special attack for? If so, I'll probably go with that, unless there's a specific reason not to, like my special attack is slashing damage, and the person I fight against ignores slashing damage or reduces slashing damage or something like that. So you have to think about... There are a few little
extra twiddly bits, aren't there, around?
Yes.
Because there are different types of damage and things like that. But it's still very simple. But yes, it can, if you are prone to analysis paralysis, it can be a bit painful when you're trying to... Oh, you're rolling your eyes at me. Because you can, like Pete says, you can think, oh, but I really want to do this, but he knows I really want to do that, so I shouldn't do that. But the rest of my cards are rubbish. And then there are some where the particular things are actually bad for you against your signature move or whatever, and your opponent knows that. And so you think, well, if I don't do my signature move, if I do my signature move and he hasn't got that card, it's great. But if I do it and he has got that card, it's terrible. And so you're forever in this sort of dilemma of what to play. But that's part of the fun of the game. I need to be a bit more detached from it. I think that's what I learned from my second game, certainly.
I find because I don't think too far ahead, I don't have too much of a problem about working out what I want to do, because I generally, if I'm the attacking fighter, I immediately discard all the defence cards. I don't care about those. They're defence cards, don't care about them. So that will generally get rid of about half my deck, and then I'll have like 3 or 4 cards left, and it's like, do any of these feature into my special attack move? If so, I'm just picking that. Otherwise, do I have like 2 or 3 of the same card? In which case, especially if I've got 3 of the same card, I'm picking that instead, because that's probably going to do tons of damage. So, and I just go that way.
Fair enough. Yeah. But it's a really fun mechanic if you can divorce yourself from the analysis paralysis. I would say, and I really like it, and it's unlike anything I've played before, which is what's one of the most refreshing things about it. It doesn't feel like anything else. It feels, he says, it feels a little bit like a skirmish game, it being a skirmish game, but I don't. It doesn't feel like Marvel Crisis Protocol. It doesn't feel like Warhammer. It's very much its own thing with its own aesthetic. Which I really like. about it. Sorry, go on.
So I was going to say, two of the things I really like about it is, one, it doesn't rely on dice, which is a good and a bad thing. You might have the analysis paralysis side of things, but as a positive thing, you don't just sit there and your opponent just keeps rolling sixes or whatever. You know, there's generally a little bit more interaction going on with it, so it's not just chucking a dice and going, well, it's a 5. You know, you actually feel like you have a bit more possible control over the situation.
Yeah, there are two. There are. It has its drawbacks, and I found in the beginning of our game that we recorded, I often had cards that were useless, and so it just happened that way. And so you were looking at it, thinking, well, there's literally nothing good I can do here. Like nearly everything I can do is probably going to be bad for me, and that's worse than rolling the dice. Like if there's a chance,
I don't know, because I mean that's like the equivalent of just rolling like 4 1s or something, isn't it? Or
but you don't know that's going to happen when you roll it. So the outcome isn't worse. True. The outcome isn't worse, or any less likely or more likely. Well, it might be. That's not important. But when you roll the dice, the agency is taken away from you, and so you're just like, wow, the gods are against me. But I think it feels worse when you're. Maybe I just need to look at it in the same way. When you get dealt a duff hand, maybe just look at I've been dealt a duff hand. There's nothing I can do here. But it almost feels like, well, actually, I don't want to do this, but I've got to, and now you're going to stab me through the heart, and I'm going to die. And that feels worse.
I think other games you can generally have that kind of feeling coming, like in MCP, if you're attacking with Hulk with its 10 damage attack, and you're hitting somebody who's only got like 3 defense dice, you're like, well, I'm just going to get pummeled into the floor here regardless. So
yeah,
I think all games have that.
True, but you can have
dice.
Yeah.
Sorry, your 5 dice sort of underworld's charge from, blooded Saïk into one of the grots from the Eyes of the Nine, or saying like, I've got 1 defense dice and you've got 9 attack dice. I think I know how this is going to go.
But we know when we roll more than 5 attack dice, you immediately don't hit.
That's true.
It's been scientifically proven. But of course it can happen in Moonstone as well. Even though you look at it and think, oh, there's literally nothing I can do here. Your opponent might not have anything good either, and you might get lucky. I think that happened in one of the things where I literally had 3 of the same card or something, but you just happened to do the wrong thing. So I stacked them all, and it worked out well for me. It's really interesting mechanic. I think that's really the main thing. It's got these 3: the Moonstones, the arcane system, and the combat system are really different and interesting, and flexible and easy to build stuff around them. You can change things. You can make attacks interesting by changing how they work, interact against different attacks. It's got a lot of potential for expansion, which is what I really like, and it has got quite a lot of expansion. I was quite surprised at how many expansions there were. So there's a starter box in which you get some goblin type things and some humans. 2 of the factions. I can't remember what the factions are called off the top of my head. I should have written it down. And then you can then buy extra boxes of miniatures for the different factions, and there's all sorts of themes. There's a fairy theme. There's a pirate. Is there a pirate goblin? There's definitely human pirates.
There's definitely pirate goblins. I'm getting them.
And there's some bigger models. I don't know how the balance works with the bigger models, but there's like some trolls and some giants. I think there's an airship, or at least 1 airship for one of the factions. Yeah. There's a really great box which I've ordered called The Cursed, which it's got models that are based on the Beast. It looks like Alice in Wonderland and a vampire. So like kind of classic fantasy fairy tale trope type characters.
There's a couple of goblins in there that have got like literally a flamethrower with a massive sort of backpack with the fuel in it and stuff like that, which again just looks brilliant and insane.
And it's got a really nice little community. I haven't obviously engaged that much with the community, but it seems like it's a fun game to play. A couple of people have been to tournaments and they really enjoy it, which is nice. I did actually do a little community shout out. I did find that there is a Moonstone blog called Goblin Mischief, which has got some introductions and stuff how to play. So if you search up Goblin Mischief, I think you'll find it, the Moonstone blog.
I'm going to try not to read that, or else I might then start to try and think that I know what I'm doing in the game, and then it's downhill from there.
Yeah, I did look and thought actually it just comes down to just go out and have a good time.
Yeah.
I think it's what it is. The miniatures are all resin, which might turn some people off. I have done okay with the ones I built the ones from the starter set. They weren't too bad. I have to say they were okay considering they were resin. They were fine and they were okay to paint. I painted some more traditionally and I painted some via the slap chop method, and they both look pretty good. Trying to think what else there is. Were there any other factions to talk about?
I do like the fact that you can, because it's a skirmish game and because there's no real army building or list building, you can just within reason. Obviously, there are the 3 factions, but 2 of the factions can lie with each other. Out of the 3 in every, there's a combination for each. You can more or less just go and buy the models you really like. Paint them however you like in all manner of different crazy ways, and have a good game, and you don't have to think about it too hard.
And there are synergies between the teams, but they can cross them. So I think the cursed team that I've bought they don't belong to the Dominion, which I think is the ones the humans belong to, but they're all nobles. So Eric the Squire has a little ability which boosts nobles, because he's a squire. And so it will work on those, even though he's not in the same Dominion, the same faction. So, you have got some synergies there, and you can find ways of combining the different factions to good effect, I think. So that's quite nice. And talking of Eric, the company Goblin King Games are running a Fate of Eric. What's the word? Campaign's the wrong word. But,
campaign. It's a campaign.
Sorry, is it a campaign? Okay, well,
really.
It's like an event. Event. That's the word I wanted. Event. So basically, if you do play Moonstone, if you did get a starter set, you play with Eric. They've got this whole thing. You can find it on their website at moonstonethegame.com, and then look for Fate of Eric. Basically, Eric is going to get a new model. He's going to basically become some sort of knight,
some noble of some kind,
a nobleman, but he is going to, we don't know which dominion, which faction he's going to belong to, and so you can play Eric. He's called Eric the Unsure, I think it is. Basically a special card you can print out, and then you can play these different games with Eric. And so I really like that about the community. It's because it's a much smaller community than other games that we tend to play. They can kind of do that stuff and kind of get you involved. So basically, whoever wins, you play your games. You can play 2. There's going to be 4 phases. You can play 2 games in each phase, and it's going to start at the end of July and run through to September, which sounds like it's just in August, but it's not. Maybe it's the beginning of July. I can't remember, but it's over a couple of months anyway. And you can play 2 games in each one and post the results online. And whichever type of Eric you've played from the three factions. Whichever one wins goes into the pot at the end, and whichever is the greatest winner across all of the games, across all of the phases that everybody submitted to Goblin King Games, Eric will be that. The new Eric model will be that faction, and I quite like that they're small enough to involve the community in that way. So your games have an effect on how the actual whole game plays out. And I know GW have kind of said that in the past, but it's not really true, is it? It kind of just, they do whatever they like. And they run these big global campaigns. They haven't done one for a while, but I suppose that's probably the pandemic.
Yeah. I think another thing that we kind of missed when talking about this game that makes me love it even more is that so many of the characters in it have such stupid names and just really doesn't take itself seriously. Like, some of the goblins that I'm hoping to get, do check out Willen Games, because he's just started stocking them on there. Do check them out. But it's like,
yes, he sent us a link. Do you want to put a link in the description? He sent us a link.
I will certainly try. It's like some of the ones we've ordered. There's one that's called Swiggity Swooty, who's like got an octopus on his head. Another one's called El Capitano because he's riding a little boat on wheels. There's Doug the Flatulent, which is a goblin riding a pug with a lance. The goblin has the lance, not the pug. Not that, that makes it less ridiculous. There's like a goblin riding a lobster which has a hook for a hand called Krusty Balboa. I mean,
Krusty
The
Mallow.
names are ridiculous and the models are fantastic, and it's just zero sort of taking itself seriously, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, we've got Baron Fancy Hat for
Yeah,
the humans.
Baron von
And you've
Fancy
got
Hat.
the Vicious Midget as well, haven't you? It's the goblin.
Oh yes, I forgot. There's the Vicious Midget, which I
Vicious Midget.
identify with on a very personal level.
And we've got the Friar Flavius, who has got a big medallion. Who has got a big medallion. So those kind of details in the game are really cool. Deadhand says he might look into it more. Sounds like it might squeeze his bits in the right way. I think if you don't take your games too seriously, but you like innovative mechanics and fun models, then if you like all those things, then you're gonna enjoy playing this. And the starter set is nice and compact. It comes in a little box, not like by a GW starter set where you could drop it on your children and kill them. And it's about £60, I think, for the starter set. You can probably get it cheaper if you look on Will and Games. I think it is less than. I don't think I paid £60. I said £60, but I think maybe I paid about £45. And it's you get everything you need to play a game in there. And you can look on the website. Actually, having said all that, you can look on the website. I'm pretty sure you can print the cards out and print out standees, paper standees, and just play the game, see how it plays without committing any money other than a bit of printer ink.
I was going to say there is they when they update the cards and they create updates for them, they do put them all online, so you can then download and print them, or you can order new versions. You can buy the newer versions, either individuals or packs of them, and that's just fantastic for me. I think that's the kind of thing that GW always misses out on doing, and they're doing it, and I think that's really great that they're showing that support.
It's the benefit of a smaller company, isn't it? A smaller company has to kind of look after its. First of all, it has to make its game good, and keep it good, because people will wander off, and they haven't got enough fan base for people to wander off. But secondly, they have got the time or it's worth them investing some love in their players. GW doesn't matter. You're just stomped, grist in their mill or whatever. I
completely missed one of the characters. I completely missed one of the characters. Just to say that one of the humans is called Sir Guillemot Poppycock.
Yes, I think I just ordered him. I think I just ordered Sir Guillemot Poppycock. And there's because the box that I've ordered is called the Administration of Justice, and they're basically civil servants kind of things, and one of them is a librarian. Which is why I ordered the box.
Fantastic.
So it's very whimsical and very fun. But as I say, it's got a really strong community and a really strong community feel from the company, which is really nice. They left a couple of nice comments on our Instagram page and things of my mediocre painting, which is very kind of them. They didn't say it was.
And there are a few models in there. Like there's one called Striga Anya, which is a little girl, and there's like this spirit thing coming out of her back that's quite actually. That's quite scary. Yeah. And there's a Wendigo thing as well, and so there are a few models in there that are a bit more. They look a bit more serious. But then there's things like something called Kavanaugh, which is just weird looking. It looks a bit like a clown thing, but it's just disturbing to look at.
And every box I looked at, I thought, I wouldn't mind those, because there's fairies and witches, and just all sorts of really fun stuff. And I can really see this game playing, being really fun. Well, it is really fun to play. I can see us playing it, and we have ordered the campaign. There's a little campaign deck of cards, which basically I think it was only about £10. I just clicked and said yes, I'll have them. It has. I think it has upgrades for your fighters, and it has things that can happen to them over the course of the string of games. So that's kind of how the Eric Leon Shaw campaign will unfold as well. He gets upgrades as he goes along. Dead Hands' wallet is twitching as he sees a new game in his future. You're more than welcome to blame us for this one. But I kind of almost feel like this could be the Agent's new game. It fits our MO of not being too serious and being quick to play, because it is very quick to play. I mean, but if you don't spend hours obsessing over which which card to play in combat. The game is very fast to play. Maybe I should just play them without looking at them.
I tell you just got to not think about it. You just got to just either go with whatever your special attack keys off of if you're attacking, or whatever you've got multiple cards of, and just go with it. Just bam, done.
And as I said to Pete after one of our games, I can't remember when, we've often have a little discussion about whether we should run a agents meetup, and what we would do if we did run an agents meetup. And I almost feel like this game would be the one to play, because apart from needing a few tables with some scenery on, everybody can easily transport their miniatures, because it's only half a dozen miniatures and a few cards. And it's just good fun. It's very easy to pick up, so if you've never played it before, you could borrow some miniatures and play a game. So maybe in the future we'll do an agents Moonstone meetup.
Mooncon.
I want to get moon like bottoms in there, but I can't. So I can think about it. So I think in a nutshell, or quite a big nutshell, I think that's the game. I don't know that my notes aren't very good. They made perfect sense when I wrote them down, but they're not very good. I don't know.
I mean, the good thing about the game is it is quite simple. It is nice and easy to pick up. There's so much stuff for it online. You can really get a good feel for what it looks like by looking on their website. Yep. We will have a battle report coming out for it at some point in the nearest future as well.
Yes.
I do love the fact that the artwork on the box is like drawn art, but it is almost exactly the pose of the models themselves when you look at the models.
Yep.
The individual fighter models and stuff like that. And I just love the way the cards themselves, the character cards, if you do go on the website, you look at the character cards, they're only like playing card size. There's not a lot of information there to have to concentrate on, so it really is a very quick and simple game. There's not many decisions to have to make, which makes it much faster. Yeah,
the graphic design of the whole game is very cohesive and thematic, isn't it? It all fits together really nicely. You've got a proper kind of, like I say, it is quite Lewis Carroll like. I think, but it all the artists they've got, the sculpts are great, and the artwork is very good and thematic and fits really nicely, which is good. The game uses keywords, which we know is really good. There isn't great loads of text to read. I mean, the rule book. Sorry, podcast viewers. The rule book. This is the rule book here. Look, it's A5 size, and it is 19 pages. So it's really not very much to it at all.
And once you get
very easy to pick up.
Once you get used to how the combat sequence is really quick. It's like, you do the damage at the same time. So if you both do things that deal damage, you both take that damage at the same time. If you both have things that occur after the attack step, then the other person whose turn it isn't goes first. So it's really there really isn't very many situations where you can just go, I don't know, I've got an immovable force and you've got an unstoppable object or whatever the thing is, and it generally is very easy to work out most of it.
No, you don't. There aren't very many things that affect. They're like effects that happen immediately. There aren't buffs and pluses that occur in this situation, or there are a few passive abilities which when you're first starting to play, they're quite easy to forget. So the Friar subtracts 1 damage from certain types of damage type, and I kept forgetting that. Or he gets 1 back as well if he does a certain damage type. He heals wound. I kept forgetting that too. So there are kind of passive things which you get used to, but that's the same in any game, I think. But there aren't too many. So because you've only got six cards, and it's alternate activation, so it's I go, you go with each model. Not whole armies at once, which is quite nice. So you're never trying to wrestle with what everybody does at once. You only have to focus on one fighter at a time, which is quite nice.
And there's generally not like area of effect abilities, not like if this character is within range of that character, they always get this bonus and stuff like that. There are a few things like that, but they're not generally like passive abilities that are always gonna affect all of the other things going on. Like I think the midget has an ability that if he's near a giant, he gets extra energy or something like that. But that's just like right at the start. So yeah, it's much easier.
Remember, just do it. Yeah, you get little tokens to denote your energy. And as characters die, they can have less energy. As they lose wounds, they can have less energy. So the closer you get to death, the less energy you generate. So actually, the less you can do. So that's what you have to watch out for when playing. The game actually it reminded me a little bit, I suppose, in terms of look. Not really look, but the way the game's set up. It reminded me a little bit of Frostgrave, but probably just because it's a small model count army that works well on a fantasy setting. But I remember Frostgrave, and it may just because we had loads of printed bits of paper. I remember Frostgrave being a bit of a pain in the bum to get my head round at the beginning. Its core was simple, but all the different spells and effects and trying to remember what you could do when and who activated when it's not complicated, but it was a little bit confusing to start off with. It didn't feel intuitive. This feels much more intuitive than that. It feels more fun. It feels more fun than Frostgrave did.
And I think one of the problems Frostgrave had is that you had your spellcaster, your wizard that led it, and they had all these spells to choose from, and it was trying to work out. There was that problem of I don't want to pick a wizard spell type that's going to be rubbish. I want to pick a spell type that's going to complement the way I want to play, but I don't know what that is yet, so I don't really know which spell type to take. And even when I do pick a spell type, I don't really know which spells to take. Am I going to pick duff spells, that kind of thing? So, and if you do pick some duff ones, you might feel like you've kind of hamstrung yourself a bit. Whereas here, I think all the models have enough balances that they'll still be good at stuff. You just need to know how to use them.
Well, again, you haven't got that choice element, which some people like, I suppose. But for me, I suppose it goes back to what I was saying earlier. As I get older, I don't like a game where decisions I make end up coming back to haunt you, which is kind of effectively what you're saying there. You pick the wrong spells.
Yeah.
Then you have a bad day. Whereas here, I guess you could pick the wrong characters for the matchup, but they're the characters that you've got, and presumably the characters you like and the characters you want to play in a certain way. So but they always have the same abilities. So you can't make a decision about I didn't bring Fireball and I really wish I had, kind of thing. I don't know whether you get upgrades, whether you can pick, whether then there's a bit of choice as to what you want to do. Or whether you just get a slap bang, you just get what you're given, kind of thing. We'll see. We'll probably play some campaign elements and introduce that into our games as and when we go. I mean, I reckon you could easily get a couple of games of this game in a night without too much trouble. Did we play 2 the first time we played, or did we just play 1?
We did play 2 games. We were streaming it to our patrons. We didn't record it.
Oh yeah, we did, didn't we? Yes, that's
and
right.
we did play 2 games. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember now. So that's Moonstone. That's number 1. That's Moonstone, and I would definitely get some thumbs up from us. You will be seeing games in the not too distant future. Are you going to cut all of the Battle Masters games before you do a Moonstone, or are you going to intersperse Moonstone?
I might try and get a Moonstone in after the second Battle Masters game, something like that. Yeah, see how I get on with it, really. Yeah,
okay. So look out for that. We're going to play some more. I ordered just before we came on air tonight. Willen Games sent me a special order form for the things that I wanted, and I paid for it with Pete's money. So it's going to arrive soon. So look out for some photos on our Instagram page. Of things we're going to pick. What did you go for in the end, Pete? I know you've already said, but I've forgotten.
I've gone for the pirate goblins and the what looks like a sort of a river troll, bristle nose.
Brilliant. I've gone for a librarian type, and beast and the beast from Beauty and the Beast. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting those. So look out for those. We will try and do some sort of games around the campaign, the choices of Eric, whatever it's called, the fate of Eric, because I want to. I don't know how we're going to fit in with everything else we're going to do, but we'll try and squeeze some games into that, because it'd be nice to have some input for that going forward, because I want it's going to be a new knight model on a horse, and I want it already. I don't know who does the sculpts for these, but they're a very good sculptor, whoever they are.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more games. This definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's about it. It's 4 minutes to 11. I'm trying to think of much else to say. Reading update from me. I know nobody really that interested in my reading update, but I have just finished a guy called Robert Jackson Bennett's Founders Trilogy, which is fantasy. It has a really interesting magic type system in it, and the first book is, well, they're all good. They're all good, but the first book is particularly good, and the trilogy kind of sets off this amazing new world and concept. Very high concept fantasy, but really good. So they're called the Founders Trilogy, and the first book is called Foundry Side, and I thoroughly recommend it. I've just reviewed and read the third book in that series, and the third book came out today. So check them out. I think Malachi's read those. I don't know if Malachi's still on. I think he has read them too. So I don't know if you've got the third one yet, Malachi, but yeah, it's good. Check it out.
I don't know. Reading. I don't think it'll ever catch on.
Reading, overrated.
Yeah. I did it once. Wouldn't recommend it.
I'm reading this very strange book now called Equinox. It's a bit like a murder mystery, but it's a science fiction, fantasy murder mystery, and everybody in it has two personalities. One that comes out in the night and one that comes out in the day, and so. And like they could both have jobs. I don't quite know where how they sleep and don't get exhausted. And that's so like the prisons only one of them would have done the crime. So in the morning or the evening, whenever the other one swaps over, they get let out of prison, but then they have to come back at the end of the day to go back in again.
How weird.
It's a very odd book, but it's quite enjoyable. I should report back when I've finished. It's called Equinox. It's by a guy called David Tozy, who I know plays Warhammer because he's posted pictures of his stuff on Twitter, and occasionally he likes my pictures of things I've posted on Twitter. So he is a Warhammerer. Yeah.
I was watching a YouTube video today about how loads of Hollywood people have a big D&D group, and it's got people like the Big Show, the WWE wrestler, and Vince Vaughn, and like the guitarist from System of a Down, or whoever it is, and right. All these incredibly famous people, movie stars and stuff, and they all get together and they play D&D and stuff. Like, that must be fucking amazing.
yeah, but we used to do it before it was cool. Bloody
that's true.
Celebrities cashing in on our nerddom.
Bastards. All of them.
Where were they when I was being flushed down the toilet at school? Where was Vince?
They were probably
Vaughn
still
there?
doing it. They just never actually said anything.
No, you're probably right. Yeah.
Gits.
Could have done with Vin Diesel on my side.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, to be fair, it was never that bad. I was good enough at football for it not to be that bad.
I definitely wasn't, but I just got left alone anyway, so I'm not going to play.
Fair enough. I wasn't good at football, but I was good enough.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to this little random jamble along of nonsense, and do check out Moonstone, and do check out Will & Games if you're looking to order anything. It's always good and fast if you order from them. Definitely worth a look. So.
I have to say, I know we've got like a personal connection to the store because Aaron's one of our supporters, but I don't know whether he's a supporter on every channel he can find, because he gets money that way from people buying stuff on his site, but on the shop. But
makes sense too.
They are. Over the years, I've used a lot of different companies, and his customer service is second to none, and everything arrives very speedily, and he's always happy to discuss getting stuff in, and that. It's so
good.
Thoroughly recommend Will & Games if you haven't used them before.
It's so good. He got on a medal from the Queen. It might not have been exactly to do with that, but I think it was probably to do with that.
I don't think it was anything to do with that, but yes, so good. I got a medal from the Queen. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all
for
listening
on that note,
and taking part.
On that royal endorsement of somebody who's associated with the channel that was nothing to do with the channel, we'll end there, I think.
Yes. And as always, do like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. If you haven't watched us on YouTube, do check us out. Do look at let us know the Battle Masters when you see that come up. And yeah, hopefully once we get the Moonstone game up, let us know what you think of that, and just keep an eye on what we're doing and let us know what you're liking.
Yeah, and we'll see you soon on the Angels of Sigmar.